All right, let's get started. We have a jam-packed webinar today, and we're really excited to talk about business texting. This is a tool that a lot of businesses are using, exploring more, but there's some great statistics and data that we're going to share today to talk about why it's important, how it can benefit your business, and we have a really exciting guest today. So we'll get to that introduction in a second. We're going to talk about texting and how it can help your conversion rates and improve the overall customer experience. And then later on, we'll talk about some opportunities to close the feedback loop with your customers, and then also help inform your business and make future updates. And then the last thing we'll talk about is a quick feature update that GatherUp just launched this week regarding some email and texting credits that you can manage within the application. So that's what we're hitting on today. My name is Steve Hartman. I am the product marketing manager for GatherUp. With me, as usual, is Chris Walker, our lead salesperson for GatherUp. And our special guest today, as most of you probably know, is Aaron Weiche, former CEO of GatherUp, now co-founder and CEO of Leadferno. It's great to have Aaron back with us. Ran these for years, and big shoes to fill for me. It's great to have you back here on the GatherUp webinar, Aaron.
Thanks, Steve. I thought you were maybe going to say with me as usual, and then introduce me, and then I remembered oh no, that's not the usual. So no, appreciate you guys having me, and great to be back on the GatherUp airwaves. I just tweeted out a selfie of me sitting here, kind of surreal, being a guest on a podcast of a company that you loved and operated so much. And I still love GatherUp, so we're all good there. Well, great. Well, I'm kicking things off today. Like Steve alluded to, for the last year and a half, I've been building a product called Leadferno. We went to market towards the end of last year. And the focus of this product is to help businesses communicate faster and better with prospects and customers. And one of the main drivers behind that is text messaging. Our secondary goal is really to help people convert more of their website visitors, as we call it, converting lurkers to leads, and doing that through some specific channels as well. So I get the privilege today of walking you through some of the things that we've built and some of the nuances to starting to look at adopting text messaging as two-way conversation for your business. So first, let's start off with something really high level. I always like to have data tell the story as much as my own thoughts and premonitions and ideas. So we've done quite a few surveys at Leadferno. And the latest one we did was 2,000 consumers, and just asking them, how do they prefer to communicate? And as we can see here, text messaging was the clear leader in how people like to communicate. Texting has taken over in our personal lives. We text with friends and family, our interests, the organizations, the teams, whatever that might be. And we've seen over the last handful of years that really erode into, it's not just a personal channel, but business as well. And if anything, we saw the pandemic really fast forward this as businesses looked for better ways to stay connected with their customers, and customers needed better ways to stay connected with businesses when they couldn't walk through their doors anymore. And let's face it, at a high level, sometimes making a phone call and will I get a call tree? Do I have to press 5? Who do I get connected to? I leave a voicemail. Then I have to wait till their voicemail returns to me. It can really be kind of an adventure sometimes. So another couple of stats to throw your way if you're still not sold on texting, or you yourself aren't an avid texter. But a recent survey showed that 89%, so this to me almost qualifies as almost everyone, wants to initiate two-way conversations with businesses via messaging. Now, the term messaging expands, right? Then you start to consider other apps that are out there like Facebook Messenger. Google has business messages, apps like WhatsApp, Signal. So there's a lot out there. But the point is that consumers want two-way messaging as a channel to interact with brands and companies and the services that they need on a daily basis. And specific to texting, 78% of consumers wish that they could text a business. And here's where the greenfield and big opportunity is. The last time I saw a solid number on this, it was last year, but I think only somewhere around 13 to 15% of businesses actually offer texting as a two-way Now, there's plenty of businesses that do text blasts, maybe sending out a weekly or a monthly or a quarterly sale or a special. And that's fine and that works for some businesses, but this really is a communication channel that you should be looking at. So one of our biggest goals is to use text messaging to power that conversion, taking that website traffic that you're working so hard to create through search marketing, through making your Google business profile as optimized as possible, through social media, blog content, newsletters, whatever you might be doing. A lot of times the end goal is trying to drive people to your website. So what we've created are a couple of buttons that pop up on your website on every page, and they prompt the user to text with you. We also offer other calls to action that are there. But what we really found is text is a huge driver and really a super low barrier to conversion. So when you take a look at texting, this gives customers an option in a channel that they're super familiar and that they trust. That's more of a real-time channel, much faster than email. As I mentioned, we found text to be one of the lowest barriers. When you compare being able to send a quick text message to filling out a 12-field form or playing that game of phone tag and leaving a voicemail, you can see why text is just so much easier. Being able to show how easy you are to work with and market through these buttons that you can text us. We're making social media posts and saying, to get started with us, just text us and we can answer your questions and get you booked or on the schedule or a meeting or a demo, whatever that might be. And lastly, when you have these two floating buttons on here, it turns every page into a contact page. I wrote a blog post on this because I think this is so key. For the last 25 years, websites have existed with all the pages on services and products, and then you have to go to the contact page to reach out to you. Why not make it so they can just click a button on any page and then select which way they want to work with you? So these buttons in Leadferno offer a lot of different customizations so that you can make them work as strong calls to action for your business. So we have a 2-button set that's a primary and a secondary together. And you can see in my examples here, you change the color scheme to match your website, and then you can use whatever you want as those calls to action in it. The one thing that you see consistent between these 6 is one button or the other mentions texting. Again, you want to market that and you want to show that you offer that easy opportunity to be able to do that. Now we have different settings, but ultimately you end up on a really quick form that's just your name, your number, and the message. If you're on a mobile device, it's just 1 tap for the name, 1 tap for the mobile. You type your first text message. After that, everything for the consumer is through their text app. That's likely their #1 app and the app they use the most on their phone. A lot of times we're seeing people comparing live chat to this web to text widget that our buttons are. And when you look at that and the fact that we're converting a lot of customers using live chat, we feel like for a majority of small businesses that this web to text type widget is better. And this kind of breaks out why it is so much more efficient from a few different angles. Number one, again, text is that #1 channel we've seen from the surveys and familiar for them. You're not trying to teach them how to use your chat window, what's available. Is a live agent actually going to help them? Are you just trying to capture an email? Is it a bot? Is it a human? With text, it's a very familiar and trusted channel. The next is one I just had happen to me this week. I started a chat with a business. I went back into my other tabs because they didn't come in the first 60 seconds. Did some other things, then remembered I had a chat going, went back to it, and the agent was like, oh, sorry, I came and doesn't look like you're here, so I closed the chat. So if you have to leave your computer or move on from the browser window you're in, that session's done. It's the only thing that you can do. Where once you send a text, the business is going to reply to you. You're able to reply whenever you want to. It's asynchronous and back and forth. You get a notification. It's as easy as your daily communication. Now, what's great for the business is you don't have to have the same lofty expectations of replies. So consumer expectations for live chat, we did this survey on reply times. The #1 expectation was within minutes at over 50.4% said an experience that they wanted replied within minutes. Now in texting, the #1 choice was same day or longer. So what this really points out is by using a web to text widget, it's not as demanding on your staff. which really makes it a lot easier for them to know I can reply faster in minutes if I'm able, or hours, and not, disappoint that customer, still give them a great experience. And it creates much more room to give them an exceptional experience. And the other thing I point out in running companies and using both live chat and using this now, with text messaging, it's really easy to train employees because they use text messaging all day long. And whether you use our desktop app or a mobile app, that interface is very similar. When you take them into a live chat, there's a lot of little nuances that can really cause employees to pause and even have fear. And there's the fear of leaving your agent on when you go to lunch accidentally and a bunch of chats come in and someone doesn't answer them. So what we see is companies end up giving more of their staff access to help out with web to text messages as compared to live chat software. What's great is text continues to go on and on. It's an inbound channel, so you can reach back out to that customer at any time, even though you've already answered their questions, and they can directly reach back out to you. With live chat, you can't do that. You can't reach out. And even worse, if you're not online, if they go to try your live chat at 2 a.m., and if it says, hey, we're offline right now, leave us an email. We did a survey here. We found 50% of those users just leave the website. Where with web to text, they can still send that message. We actually deliver an auto reply after hours. It says, hey, great, we received your message. We're not back online till 8 a.m. tomorrow. That's when we'll reply. So at the end of it, the best way to summarize this is text is a connection and live chat is just a session. And I think for most small businesses, you want the value and the power of that connection over just a session.
Aaron, just to jump in, I think that as far as customer experience goes, the expectation setting is so huge here.
Yes.
A lot of us probably have had those experiences. I've had one recently where I'm texting with a business about some tickets and you don't feel like you're a waiting game or that you got to respond or you can't leave it. And it's just so, I don't know, it's such a relief to communicate with a business that way.
Yes. It's much more fluid in real time instead of having to be tied in and it being your only focus and feeling the pressures of all the other things you might need to do or move on to or whatever else to get it solved. It's like you have an open line of communication that can flow however you need it to. So texting and having a more real-time channel increases what we call speed to lead. Interesting enough, a recent survey showed that the average reply to a digital lead is 17 hours. This is kind of crazy, right? Because this is time for a customer, depending upon how you followed up with them, to find another solution or get antsy and start looking elsewhere. Just the other day, I was doing some cold outreach for Leadferno, and I got a magazine. There's a bunch of home services that were all advertising in it. So I was using their contact form to reach out to them to make them aware of Leadferno and see if they wanted to do a demo of our product, basically sales emails through their contact or through their lead forms. Interesting enough, I ended up filling out 25 of them. Only 4 of those forms sent me an auto reply that said, hey, we received this and we're going to reach out soon. The other 21, you just have no idea. Did they get it? Are they going to reply? When? What does that look like? That's such an easy thing and such a big miss. And secondly, average response times to a text is 90 seconds. Emails is 90 minutes. So that's 60 times faster. Now, the thing I point out with this isn't, again, to stress the business. It's just knowing when you're responding as a business, your customer is likely going to respond that much faster. So instead of you waiting on them to go into their email and know you've replied and really elongating what took place, you have the opportunity to have a more fluid, succinct, and tightly wrapped conversation that you can close that lead to whatever outcome is best. All right, so Leadferno is more than just text messaging, as our 89% stat showed us, messaging as an overall. So what we've done is created a couple of integrations with Facebook Messenger and Google's business messages that turned on in the Google business profile and offer a chat button. We allow you to read and reply to those all out of the Leadferno app. So instead of having to check your Facebook app, Google business messages is now through the Maps app. You don't have to go those places. You can just go to one place to respond to text, Messenger, or Google's business messages, all from one, and use all of our business features layered over the top of it. So great efficiency for your team in responding to any of these messaging channels. And one thing I would point out that's smart for business to think about, if you get leads or customers that come into you through Facebook Messenger or through Google's business messages, somewhere in the conversation, try to transition that to a text conversation, because now you have their number, now you own that contact point, and now you can reach out to them at any time. So using text to improve your communication. How can it improve customer experience? Well, one, it allows you to answer questions faster and easier for your prospect and for your customers. The second, text is a personalized one-to-one channel. It's the reason why we use it so much for all of our daily communication. So it really helps position your business as a very customer-friendly, communication-centric business. And that's really important to customers and sometimes one of your biggest differentiators. It's a time saver. Instead of being stuck in a chat window, instead of having to go and check your email, the customer gets this beautiful text notification on their side. And just as we talked with your team, they already know how to text. You're not training them on some crazy piece of software, understanding when you're live, when you're not live, and all the features within that. They're just taking their basic text understanding, learning a few new business features that give them efficiency, and they're off and running. You're able to create better touch points and a connection with your customer. Texting allows you to send a lot more like simple follow-ups and make sure things are going fine and give people a heads up on what's coming next. It's just really well rooted to processes and great customer service. And in the end, all of these things add up to an improved customer experience, which at the end of the day, if you're using a tool like GatherUp and you're caring about reviews, customer experience is something that you wanted rated 5 stars and you want to deliver at an excellent level. Just to give you a few text use cases, obviously we already show with our lead box tool and our 2 floating buttons to start conversations. They're great for pre-sale questions and those conversations. Using it to book calls and appointments, being able to text them a Calendly link or another scheduling, or just taking the schedule and setting something over text. Depending upon your type of business and what your sales process looks like, it's a great way to ensure calls happen, follow-ups. Do they have what they need? Any additional questions? Reminders is an easy one, right? We've been getting reminders likely from our dentist and doctor visits and things like that for many years. But inside your business, just sending reminders ahead of a call. Hey, reminder, we have a call in an hour. Looking forward to it. Reminder, you've sold your house. We're moving you. We're showing up at 2 o'clock today. Again, so many uses for that. Being able to send your customer updates and your customer being able to send you updates as things move and change. Really easy to keep the conversation and communication going. Being able to support certain situations if something went wrong and being able to fix it or find out what needs to be addressed. Following up after the service delivered, following up on how did we do? What could we do better? How did everything turn out for you? Are you satisfied? And then lastly, and Steve will get into this in his part of this, feedback and review requests made really easy by text, especially when you're already using text since the very first conversation and throughout servicing the customer. One thing I will point out here real quickly, by using text messaging or by adding it to your communication channels, it doesn't mean you have to do everything by text. So again, our #1 goal is to start conversations for you. Once you answer that first question, and if it works best for your business, to book a meeting, get on a phone call, send them an email with a bunch of information, do that. You don't have to go 100% text only on it. What we find is a lot of businesses, they start by first questions and prospects texting. They get familiar with it, and then they start to see where they can benefit it elsewhere, and they start to change their process a little bit. But just know it's not an all or nothing proposition by any means. It's just a great way to get people asking questions and a very efficient channel for you to look into. So the advantages to using a business messaging app. Some of these are a really big deal when you start to think about it. First is secured and centralized data. So instead of your employees using their own phone and their own text messaging and all the contacts and all the conversations sit on their phone, and when your salesperson leads or your service person leads or your office admin leads, you lose those conversations, you lose those contacts. That's not what happens when you use a business messaging app like Leadferno. They have a user and password into their app, whether they use it desktop or they use it via a mobile app. You retain all that data. If an employee leaves or moves on to a different position, you shut off access to it. You retain everything. And then you can link it to your CRM so you can bring that data back into your contacts. Having that web to text widget, making it easy to start conversations off of a website, whether the customer's on a desktop or a mobile app. And then a lot of great business features, right? You have saved replies. So with our tool, they're called shortcuts. You can save your common questions, common answers, links, photos, things like that, and then be able to send those out within just a couple of taps. So instead of having to type out the same answer over and over again, that's 250 characters, in 2 taps, couple of seconds, you can send that same reply out. Or if you're in sales, there might be a couple of pre-sale questions you're always asking. Any brand new lead gets an auto reply out of our system. We have 2 different ones based on your business hours or your reply hours. So during your business day, they'll get one that lets them know, hey, thanks for contacting us. We received your message. We're going to reply back to you shortly. If they're texting you at midnight, you're going to be able to then get it and say, hey, we're not available right now, but we did receive your message. We are starting to return texts at 8 a.m. Central tomorrow. So again, you make it really easy. You establish immediate contact, you let them know it's received, and you set the expectation on when you're going to reply. And then you're able to schedule messages. So while you're working in it, you can schedule messages to send in the future. This is great for appointment reminders. You just set that appointment. Now you can schedule that reminder to go out next Tuesday at 8 a.m., 1 hour ahead of what's there, or follow-up messages. And then lastly, transferring threads. You can transfer full conversations to other team members. So if there's someone on the team that you need to pass it off to because you're leaving for the day, going on vacation, or someone is just the expert on your team and better equipped to handle what their need is, you can transfer that full thread to them. They get to see everything that's taken place and they can pick the conversation right up. You can't do that with your regular text messaging app. I touched on the integrations. We have a Zapier app, so you're able to integrate. If it's something more complex, we have an API. And then tracking and reports. We're able to let you know what is the interaction with the lead box. How many leads are you getting from these messaging channels? And what pages of your website are producing these text messaging leads?
Aaron, quick question came in. I forgot to mention this, but if anybody has questions, drop them in the Q&A or the chat. Chris will help us organize that. But Chris Agro has a question on nimble.com if you guys integrate with that.
I would, if Nimble has a Zapier app, we would be able to connect with it. So the way my setup is right now, I can't fly off onto Zapier and Google that, but anything that is connected to Zapier, right? Zapier has over 5,000 app that's out there. You can connect with us to that through Zapier. So, and like I said, if it's something more complex, we do have an API. You do need a developer then, but Zapier is usually the best way because it's a small fee for Zapier monthly, but no code, and you can connect things to talk to each other. Great way to automate and integrate.
Excellent.
All right, so as we transition into what Steve's going to be talking about, we really see show up that texting does bolster and create a differentiator in the customer experience. So if we start to look at a few of these Google Business Profile review sections, we see on some of the things that people often mention that it is text messaging. So we see for big blue boxes here, we see text being mentioned. For this next one, we see text messages mentioned 10 times. And if we look at individual reviews here, we can see that when we dive into them, the customer here is super happy with this. They bought a new refrigerator and they're able to interact with this appliance store all by text messaging. So you can see it matters enough to the customer that they're specifically calling that out. And we see this over and over again with long-term users of text messaging, that the convenience and that amazing communication is something that really drives reviews for them. This next example of a review shows you once again, this one is for an auto shop, and this shows them that the text communication was great. So they knew every step of what was going on with that truck. So this is again, something, if you're doing these updates, you might not call this person that much because it would be overkill to give them the 2, 3, 5 steps of the repair process. But firing off a quick text and letting the customer know and building trust in your process and just showing some, great customer service, that really goes a long way. So texting shows up in how people talk about your business, might be in person and saying, oh yeah, use this company. I did it all by text, super easy. You can just text them right from your website and get started. And it shows up in the end result in people writing about their experience in 5-star reviews.
So that's a perfect segue. I'm going to give it just maybe 10 seconds here to see if anybody has any further questions on Lead Furno. We can always take them at the end as well. But just want to make sure that if there's anything specific people have questions about regarding Lead Furno, that they have that opportunity. So great stuff, Aaron. I think, that this transition from texting and how the business can use it to empower that customer to make an easier journey leads into what you were just alluding to there, and that's the feedback element to this. And so we did a little bit of analysis of some of the feedback within GatherUp. So we looked at 175,000 reviews across 5 different industries, and we compared negative reviews to positive reviews. And then we looked at kind of what you were just showing, how often people mention the word call or talk or communicate, things like that, things that are related to communication, responsiveness, because as you just laid out, all of that really matters. So what we found was that 36.6% of negative reviews had mentioned communication, while only 20% were in positive reviews. So, people, when they're upset, communication is probably a bigger concern for them when they're unhappy, right? When they have a bad experience, it's likely related to some communication issues. Yeah. They're less likely to rave about it, but if you're doing things right, they obviously will.
That's such a huge number, Steve. Like having over a third of negative experiences out of that large of a review set, and it comes down to communication. Yeah. Like it's just such a signal for most businesses how much they need to care and perfect their communication and how they set expectations, how well they respond, how easy they make it to communicate with you. Just can make a world of difference in how people promote and talk about your business after the fact.
Absolutely. Now, it does vary a lot by industry. And as you might expect, things like home service, restaurants, sometimes that communication is more important, right? Like, and as opposed to some of these other industries. So it does vary. So keep that in mind. As you can see in this chart, a moving storage type company actually had more positive reviews mention communication. So maybe they're delighted, right? Like maybe you provide that service and it's almost unexpected, so that they call it out in the review, versus home service. Like I just want you to do the job, and if you can't communicate, I'm gonna really tell you about that in the review. So
how many of us have been ghosted by a home service company, right? Like that yeah. Definitely can happen. And the moving and storage just shows me like it's all make or break in communication for them, right? Like the job and what's done, a lot of that can be very straightforward, but like communication either makes you completely stand out or completely fail in the customer's eyes.
Yeah, over 60% mention communication, either negative or positive. So yeah, really, really important there. So, once you delight that customer, right? Like you're communicating well, you're giving them the experience they expect. That's where you step in and ask for that feedback so that you're showing up well. As we talked about earlier, expectations for this are really important. So set the expectation. You will receive a review request from us, or watch for it in your email. We'll text you a link, something like that. And then we've also done some blog posts on utilizing the same channel. Now, Aaron said, you don't always have to do that, and there's different reasons to switch from texting to email or to a phone call, just based on the information you need to share with them. But, when it works, it's really nice to keep it in that same channel. So if you've been texting with them, and then you can send that link in text, then they just expect it, right? Like they've already been in this conversation, they're in this mode with you. If you wanted to leave the channel, then I would say something like in your text message, hey, watch your email. We're going to send you something via email for a review request. So there's a few different ways, and a lot of you probably know some of this, but it might be enlightening for a few who aren't using more SMS for requests. So you can send a text request right out of GatherUp. 85% of smartphone users are preferring messages to emails or calls. Just another stat. Aaron has a lot of them as well, but really this is that timeliness of sending out that text asking for that review. So this comes out of our system. You go through that entire process, whether you're collecting net promoter score, survey questions, first or third party reviews, all of that done via phone. So the nice thing is it can be automatically done. So as that experience ends, depending on what service you provide, they come in through an API, through Zapier as well, or you can manually add the customer in. This text goes out in a timely fashion. The other thing that you can do through text with GatherUp is the inbound text. And this is what we call text back, where you're giving them the opportunity to opt in, essentially. We've seen businesses use signage, receipts, business cards, things like that, where they say, hey, text the word feedback to this phone number and let us know how we did. This is great for those in-person meetings where you're dealing with the customer directly. But you could also use this through a messaging app as well, and just do the same thing where you just say, hey, thanks a lot, text the word feedback to this phone number, or there's other things you can do as well, which would be the URL piece, and just including that URL into that conversation you already have going. So this in GatherUp, we have at the top, there's a link button. You click that, and there's a little feedback URL there. That you can embed into your text messages, into your Lead Funnel app, into that message stream as well. And then I think a lot of you know, but in case you don't, GatherUp actually creates a Google review. We have a Chrome extension that creates the URL link for Google reviews as well. So if you're on the Google Business Profile page under the Write a Review in a browser, you can click our extension and it'll automatically create the URL for you. So we have some great tools to help create these URLs to add into your messages, add into your current, if you're sending out a survey through a MailChimp or SurveyMonkey, you can certainly use these links there as well. And then like I said, incorporating this into a messaging app like Lead Funnel. So you have that conversation, you're having a great experience with the customer, you provide the service, you provide the product, and they're happy. Capitalize on that, include the URL, whether that's GatherUp's URL, the Google URL, or some other review site that you're using.
I'd for sure say use the GatherUp URL, Steve.
Well,
no,
yeah.
I'm super biased, but no surprise if you've listened to me over the years. Like, I just put equal value in first-party reviews as well as third-party reviews on Google, Facebook, TripAdvisor, those other sites. One, you get so many more customers to talk to you through first-party. Not everybody wants to be a public review superstar and put it out there. So you want to understand what your customer thinks, capture those first-party reviews. And then just all the things I know you're going to touch on, like that GatherUp helps you market, is just really phenomenal on that side. And as we've seen, right, Google loses reviews, they remove reviews, all those things. Like, own your own reviews and be putting those up to your site as well. So for me, at the end of the day, get first party and third party as well. I'll always stay consistent with that. So yeah, with Lead Funnel, you can drop in the feedback URL from GatherUp, and it's great to use those two solutions together.
All right, so now, we got a question here. Is there a white label for Lead Funnel, Aaron?
No, we don't have a white label. We have a partner program. So you make affiliate commission monthly off of your clients that are on it. You get access to your clients' accounts. You have a partner dashboard. Text messaging being a little too nuanced. The last thing we want our agency partners or SEOs doing is trying to support a text message not being delivered. The app isn't giving a notification, right? Things like that. So our agency partners, all they pretty much have to do is intro us, and we'll do demos if they need it. We'll help them get it set up. We do all the support, and they make a monthly fee off it, and they get access to the account to be able to help with the conversations and be able to see the stats and include that in their report. So we try to make it best of all worlds. Yeah, you're able to build revenue, give them a great conversion service, and let us do all the work.
Cool, thanks. I know we're over a time a little bit here, so I appreciate everybody hanging with us. If you have to drop, no problem. We'll send out the recording, but hang with us, and maybe you'll have some questions here as we continue to go forward. So just a few more minutes. I want to pivot over to marketing these reviews, because now, as we've talked about this kind of full circle or cycle of the customer journey, the marketing side and bringing them back to your website to allow your new messaging app to increase those conversions. It's just it's a really nice way to tie this all together. So, reviews obviously are a huge part of local search rankings. They help drive visibility and ranking on Google. 77% of people regularly or always read online reviews. So they're important, and that's actually been growing lately. So one thing to keep in mind is as you display reviews on your site, like Aaron said, first and third party. First party really have that value on your website as that unique content to the web. But that gets people into the door, so to speak, right? Like your front door is your website, and then Lead Funnel can help you convert them by providing a quick contact, a really good customer communication experience. Those reviews will build trust, and trust increases conversion rates, right? As people come to your site, they want to feel good about, considering you. Those reviews can validate their feelings. They can change their minds, and all of that is meant to help them make a decision and convert. Recently Google came out with some information that they actually value a mix of positive and negative reviews. So as we've been talking about for years, show all your reviews, be transparent with your experience, because as you improve your customer experience, those reviews are going to reflect that. So don't be afraid of a negative review or two on your website. It just makes you look authentic. And then you can, of course, drive leads with social media and Google Business Profile. Sorry, I had to catch myself. I almost said GMB. So share these reviews as they come in your organic posting and your paid posts. It generates interest. It again increases that social trust. Google Posts is great for showcasing imagery. The one thing I would say is do not use stock photos if possible. There's some really cool tools like DALL-E and AirCam that will help you create some of these images. So use real localized imagery whenever possible, and that will really help stand out as Google is using more image search in their results. And then, another benefit to a system like GatherUp, of course, is measurement, understanding, and analyzing this feedback. So I kind of started out talking about some of the data we had, and this is essentially where it comes from. So you look in your customer activity or in your success report or insights report for keywords related to communication. And then you can start to begin to understand how are we doing in our communication, where are we falling short, and where are we excelling. So use your auto tagging or your tagging system to do this. Use your insights report to do this as well. The technology of insights report is really helpful, analyzing the keywords for you. But really, this is all meant to just help you understand that journey, adjust it, improve it, and then continue to learn and listen. So you provide a great experience, you're using the right tools, you're communicating with your customers. And then, collect that review, collect that feedback, and then understand it and analyze it so that you can continue to move forward. And this is, again, why this is a circular motion. It's a cycle. Continue to iterate as you move forward. All right, so the last thing I wanted to call out, and it's related to texting, and so it was great timing with this feature update that we're launching. We have had add-ons and integrations as a menu option for the last, 5 or 6 months. But now you have the ability to add SMS or email credits within our application as you need. So really, before, the challenge was you had to reach out to CS. Our CS team would add the credits for you, then you'd be on your way. This gives that power to you. You can add what you need when you need it. So for instance, if you are a growing brand and you are getting more customers than our base package offers, you need to add some more emails, you need some more SMS credits. You can simply go into your add-ons and integrations and add these at the location level. Another great tool, as you think about your communication, you might pivot from email to SMS and texting within GatherUp. And so that's another reason you may want to add some more SMS messages. It's in the upper right-hand corner under all your settings. So find your name in the upper right-hand corner of the application, click the drop down, it's under add-ons and integrations, and you can see it there. Pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions on that, of course, you can email support@gatherup.com. All right, I think that's it. I don't know if we have any more questions. Chris, anything come through that I missed?
Well, Aaron's been manning the chat himself.
Oh, Aaron took over the chat. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
well,
he's got it handled.
You invite him back, and this is what happens. All right.
I just take over. You guys know, if you give me an inch, I take a foot. So
Yeah. Well, and just to wrap up, I think the two products that are featured here, Leadferno, GatherUp, obviously work well together, but really this is just about how you communicate with customers, connect with them, make it a conversation, provide great service, and then capture that and learn from it and move forward. And it's just, that's how you're going to win in customer experience. That's how you're going to deliver that and make more customers happy. So
totally, Steve. And I would point out, I just wrote an article this week, as more people talk about, a possible recession, things like that. One of the things you can do to a recession proof is just be super well connected to your customer. So that post I just kind of looked at, one, what did we learn in connection from the pandemic and how we have to adapt and plan and make changes? And then how can we use text messaging to get closer to our customers? And when we see that happens, then they turn into advocates that write great reviews and talk about us to other people. So there's just a great cycle that can happen by using these two tools and using them well. Both, they feed each other really well. When you have more reviews out there, you're going to get more leads. If you have a lot of Google reviews and you have Google business messages turned on, you're going to get leads. You'll get web traffic. So just a lot of great things. It just all comes down to caring and performing on great communication.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for joining. This was long overdue. Glad we could do it now. And I appreciate your time. And everybody, thank you for attending. If you have any further questions, Aaron, best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, Aaron@leadferno.com, or use the text feature on leadferno.com in the lower right. And likely I'll be one of the one answering that. Otherwise, feel free to Twitter stalk me. I'm plenty available there @Aaron Weiche on Twitter. Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with the Leadferno app first out of the gate before your email, but that was a test. So
I'm personal. I'm personal. If you need something, come to me and we'll get it figured out.
A lot of ways to get a hold of you. Same with us. Reach out, steve.hartman@gatherup.com, chris@gatherup.com, or support, of course, if you need any help. Thank you all for attending. We'll be following up with the recording and the recap of this webinar, and watch for the next one coming soon. Have a great day, everybody.